Hey folks, Dust here, and I just wanted to do a little bit of a post-event vlog after I just got back home from working the CS Asia Championships as well as PGL Masters Bucharest, and just kind of give some updates around the channel, as I know I haven't put out any content in the last few weeks after being pretty regular when it came to putting out content for the majority of this year, as that's been kind of a goal of mine, is to be more consistent with content and grow this channel. And, you know, we're getting very close to 5,000 subscribers, just a few hundred away, and really looking to kind of keep building on the channel going forward. And certainly with the major right around the corner and a few other things going on, definitely we'll be seeing a lot of content on the channel to end out the year. But yeah, just figured I'd kind of touch base with you all since it's been a few weeks. But before I get deeper into that, if you don't mind and you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment. All those things are certainly very helpful in keeping this channel growing. Definitely have the goal of still trying to hit that 5,000 subscriber mark before the end of the year, which I think with the major and some of the other stuff I have going on, that's very possible. Again, I think we're only like 300 people away from doing that. But if not, we'll keep grinding and we'll get there eventually. And then we'll set new goals and, you know, just keep on going. That's kind of how it is. But yeah, basically, you know, if you were curious why you haven't seen any videos on the channel the last 3 weeks or so, it is because I was in Bucharest, Romania for the past 23 days. I got back kind of late Sunday night. That was Sunday the 2nd of November is when I got back home. And then it was my fiance's birthday and some other stuff was going on when I got back home, and just trying to get back on a normal schedule after, you know, being in Europe and traveling back and the long travel and such. Just needed a little bit of time. And I will say this, when I left to go to the CSH Championship, I actually left on like October 11th, and it was very, you know, not crazy tough or anything like that, but you know, you're traveling from the US to European time, which was about 8 hours ahead of where I live at the time. And then we were working on China time for the CS Asia Championships because we were doing the broadcast remotely from the PGL studios in Bucharest, doing the English broadcast for CAC, which is taking place in Shanghai. So it was kind of a wild ride of traveling from NA to Europe to work on China time. And, you know, very early call times, you know, and just kind of trying to get into a routine. And then, you know, after CSH Championship was over, I had a few days break, but then I got ill during that break. Nothing like super bad, but just, you know, flu-like symptoms, stuffy, headache, tired, you know, just the classic flu-like symptoms, basically. And so I spent a lot of the in-between time just kind of resting, doing, you know, lots of rest, lots of fluids, you know, trying to make sure I got myself pretty well, I guess you could say, health-wise, getting ready for PGL Masters Bucharest, because I knew that was coming up. And so I wanted to make sure that I was as healthy as possible for that, and then get through that event and all that jazz. So yeah, while I did fully intend on trying to do some content while I was at these events, between the kind of crazy schedule and call times and stuff like that for the CSA Championships with all the time zone stuff going on in Shanghai, and then getting sick, and then, you know, other stuff, I just really wanted to make sure I could put forth the best product possible when it came to doing the broadcast for these two events. And so that's kind of what I put my focus on, was doing the prep work and the behind the scenes work of making sure I could do my best death segments possible, as well as resting and taking care of myself when I was feeling a little bit sick in between events. And so that's really kind of how it goes. And in all honesty, also, there wasn't really a whole lot other than some tournament results to really talk about. I mean, yes, there was the whole Senzu story with Mongols, but there really wasn't much for me to add to that conversation, just because it clearly seemed like some type of benching that we're never really going to get an answer to as to why it happened. And then, obviously, the last-minute replacement of the controls guy coming in, I don't really know much about him. So I just didn't really have a whole lot to add to that conversation anyway. And other than that, there really hasn't been any other roster news. Other than, like, I guess OG benching like Nikodos and Krizen, and then potentially Cadian go in there to be the new in-game leader. But that hasn't really been officially announced yet. Maybe if it does, I'll do my classic, you know, roster update videos I normally do. And then other than that, the only other big news was obviously like the main talent announcement, and then, you know, just the fact that the major is going to have a best-of-5 grand finals for the first time. And there's really nothing for me to have that conversation either, other than, yeah, that's great. Obviously, that's all something that we wanted. But it's obviously something that didn't really take a whole lot of change. It changed nothing about logistics of the event. Like, you already have a day dedicated to the grand finals. Now it's just going to last maybe a couple hours longer. So there was very little effort that needed to be done to make that happen. And the real thing that needs to change for majors that will take some effort and potentially have to cause like scheduling to be expanded and all that jazz, and, you know, that'll obviously make things tougher on TOs financially, is that we need to get rid of best of ones. But yeah, that's kind of, you know, really all I have to say about that. There's really not any other deeper conversation to have. Maybe I'll do a separate video about, is that something you want me to talk more about? I can. So leave a comment down below if you want to see me talk about the major best of 5 and major format situation. But other than that, yeah, obviously, working CAC was a lot of fun, even though it was weird times. I got to work with Professor from HLTV through a lot of that event, as well as, of course, working with Mally Snake. And then when it came to hosting, I worked some with Paula and some with Richard. And yeah, it was a good time. The CSH Championship, it was great to just get back to work after not working for 5 months. I mean, that's really the tough spot I'm in right now, is just getting consistent work, right? Like, it has been nice that I've been able to kind of break back into the scene as a desk analyst after being away for so long. And that kind of got kickstarted last year when I did the Copenhagen RMRs for the Copenhagen Major for PGL in 2024. And then, of course, did the Shanghai RMRs and the Shanghai Major. That kind of got me back in. And then this year is like my first year back on the circuit full time, so to speak. And while I have worked all the PGL events this year, one of the CSH championships this year, and I worked one Blast Rivals event, I didn't really get to do too much outside of that. There was the big 5-month gap between when I worked Blast Rivals in Astana and when I went and did the CSH championships and the Masters Bucharest event. So that was tough. No income during that time, obviously, and also just kind of twiddling thumbs, like waiting for an opportunity. But luckily, I was able to work the CSH championships to kick things off, again, work with Paul and Richard. I was on the desk with Bowie and Professor. I think I did one day with Vendetta. Kind of cool to see Vendetta back. He obviously, was a very active guy in the scene for a long time as a desk analyst. He has a history as a player, and he did some coaching as well. So definitely a veteran in the scene. So cool to see him back. Hopefully we'll see him back some more next year as well. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this event. Obviously really cool to see Legacy take down a trophy finally. Got to see, 3D Max, Liquid, and Heroic did pretty well at this tournament as well. I thought Foot was kind of a cool story. The former Navi Academy, basically, with Lonks in for Makaze. Had a pretty good run at this event as well. And obviously some big disappointments, though, out there. Game Legion had a tough event. Bait, I thought, played well under where they were probably hoping to play. Same could be said for Tyloo and Payne, based on kind of some of the other things they've been doing this season, and what Payne did at the major. So there are definitely some bumps out there as well. Obviously, another disappointment for FaZe, and then VP's VP, right? So not too crazy stuff there, but all in all, it was a whole lot of fun to work that event, and always happy to work with PGL. Then, as opposed to flying home and only being home for like a couple of days and then flying back to Bucharest, I just decided to stay. Again, got ill, so I didn't really get to do a whole lot. It was mostly just resting to make sure I could be ready for Masters Bucharest. I worked on the desk with, I think, Tech Girl the entire event. I think every day I was with her. I think I did 3 days with Yanko on the desk, and then I did like 3 or 4 days at Stryker on the desk. And this is Stryker's first time doing desk analysis, obviously coming over from HLTV, where I think he's like the editor-in-chief or whatever you want to call it, like one of the head positions. Yeah, editor-in-chief HLTV, and as one of the, obviously, co-hosts of their HLTV Confirmed podcast. So was kind of neat to, work with someone in the industry in a different capacity, with him working as an analyst. That was a lot of fun. Had a good time there. Obviously, Bled and Richard Lewis were also there doing desk work. And then, of course, we had casters. We had Launders and Scrawny were on site, as well as Moses and Dinko. Then we had the secondary broadcast with Henry G, Harry, Machine, and Sponge. And yeah, obviously just a great time. Also, Jackie was at this event doing, the interviewing, and didn't really have a stage host, because it was a studio event, but he was doing a lot of the interviewing and side content. And while he's mostly known as a commentator, within the Counter-Strike space at least, I know he had done some hosting in the past, if I'm not mistaken. So cool to see him in that role. I thought he did a good job with the interviews and the side content that we had for the broadcast. And yeah, another fun event working this one. Finally, Aurora gets a win. It's been waiting on this to happen all year long, so it finally does happen for him. Legacy making back-to-back Grand Finals was another cool story. Saw was a really cool story as well, getting a top 3 finish, as this was kind of their big land to end the year since they're not at the major. And, they were a team that didn't really have much eyes on because they kind of got on the map last year by making some noise at Cologne, back when they still had Ejerks and Aerodose on the team. And then they've been through a bunch of roster changes multiple times since then, never really got back on track. But now, they were able to do, well in some like local competitions, and now they have a 3rd place finish at this event. And Agile continues to look like he's developing as a player. Aragorn was kind of a shocking performance from him. He actually played really well, well above what he had been doing before. And so, yeah, that was a really cool story for them. Good to see Gamer Legion bounce back. Obviously, there was the, whole situation where they got absolutely ripped apart by Aurora in the semifinals. And so that will kind of put a little bit of a stain on the run overall. But still, they finished 4th place. It was nice to see them get a decent land finish after having a tough season. Definitely a lot of talent on that roster. And so hopefully we'll get to see them do more. Disappointing performance from Liquid once again. I mean, they did do a pretty good job in the group stage. They beat Legacy again. They went 3 maps with Aurora. They took care of business against BetBoom and FlyQuest to make the playoffs. But then they get to the quarterfinals and they lose to Saw, where they got a collective 3 rounds in the 2 maps that they lost. So obviously that is shit. And definitely some concerns now going into the major for that team, as I just don't know what's going on there. They clearly have a lot of talent, and it just seems like it's not working out right now. But maybe with more prep before the major, they'll figure something out, you hope. Pain looked a little bit better this event compared to CAC and some other events we've seen this year. They were able to make the playoffs at least. Obviously, they had their own woes in the quarterfinals, I guess you could say, losing to Legacy. They did get a map in the series, but ultimately did get beat pretty handedly in the other 2 maps. But at least it was improvement, and it was interesting to see that they had Snow playing kind of a new role for them. He was kind of doing a lot of entry work, whereas in the past he was more of a supportive element for the team. So even though they haven't made any roster changes since bringing in DGT, they have made some internal swaps to try to fix things, and saw a little bit of something there. We'll see how it plays out for them going forward. Bait and Heroic also had pretty good runs at this tournament. Heroic had a particularly blistering group stage run going 3-0 in the Swiss system against NIP and Aurora and BB, and they didn't lose a single map in that run, so that was pretty cool. Obviously, I know things didn't go well for them in Chengdu as a follow-up, so to speak, but we'll see how things play out there going forward. Interesting stuff. Other than that, there wasn't really a whole lot else to draw from it other than Astralis not doing well, but they're doing well in Chengdu, so a little bit of a bounce back in that regard. And then, other than that, 3D Max bombing out was definitely tough after having made the grand finals of CAC. I think that they probably overdid it. I think now with them having gone to Chengdu, which I think they're already eliminated from at the time of me recording this vlog, if I'm not mistaken, they're already out of that. Because the playoff teams are Falcons, Astralis, Mongols, Mouse Fury, Vitality. Yeah, 3D Max got knocked out pretty early. They lost to Lin Vision. I think they went back and forth to China 3 times. I mean, and not too much time in between those 3 trips to China, because they played that Perfect World Challenge where they played Tyloo and Lin Vision and won the event. They came back to Europe. Then they flew back there to play the CS Asia Championship. Then they flew to Bucharest, played Masters Bucharest, and they flew back to China for their IEM Chengdu. Like, I just think they ran themselves into the ground. So I'm going to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt in that regard. But obviously tough. Obviously tough look for NIP as well. This event looked very damning, to be honest, compared to some of the other stuff they did this year. So yeah, not going to get too crazy into the results about those events. But yeah, just having a lot of fun. Again, working with the PGL crew is my last gig of the year on the desk. And I'll probably do like a little end-of-year piece of content about my desk work this year and my thoughts going into next year. So I won't get into that too much in this vlog. But yeah, this is my last gig. Obviously, I'm not doing the major. As you see, that talent announcement already come out. Not anything else really going on with Chengdu already underway, and with only Blast Rivals left, and that talent's already been announced as well. But I'm hopeful that I'll be doing some stuff on the desk next year. I have a pretty good relationship with PGL over these last couple of years. Things have gone pretty well, I think, and I think they're happy. I'm happy. Seem to be going well, so I presume that I'll probably do some more stuff with PGL next year. And, maybe the door's still open with Blast as well. I did work one Blast Rivals event this year. And while they do have kind of a regular crew that they work with, maybe there's a chance that they might have room for me at another event. Like, I know they're doing a Blast Rivals event in the Dallas-Fort Worth area next year. So maybe that's an opportunity with me being a North American, and I think I'm only like an hour flight away from Texas, that maybe that would be a fit for me to come work an event there. But we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, that's really the best that I can say on that. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Just wanted to give a little bit of an update. Just talking about the, working the CSH Championship, working PGL Masters Bucharest, my last gigs of the year. Was cool to get to work with PGL once again. Obviously, some exciting announcements from PGL as well, with them announcing that they're running, I think, 6 events in 2027, but they're also doing the English broadcast for CAC that year. So they have 7 events total in 2027 that they announced, with the stuff that they're already doing in 2026. And then they announced 8 events for 2028. So looking like we're going to see PGL be pretty committed to Counter-Strike. And that's, obviously I'm a little bit biased there because I've been working with PGL and I have a great relationship with them and I want to keep working with them. And it seems like they want to keep working with me. So obviously that's, positive news. I don't want to get too ahead of myself and get my hopes up, but at the same time, like there is a chance that I could be working with PGL, for the next several years. And I've never really had the privilege of feeling like I had any sort of job security before, because this is a freelancer market. It is esports. It is a, tumultuous environment sometimes, with what's happened with me in Counter-Strike in the past and what happened with me with Riot and Valorant for those years, and then all of a sudden get kicked to the side, so to speak. So never really want to put all your eggs in one basket or get your hopes up, but still pretty cool to see that announcement. And yeah, hopefully you'll see me doing more stuff. Obviously the goal is to be a regular on the desk, on the circuit, and maybe get to some big events in the future. Hopefully get to some majors in the future, as I would hope that Shanghai won't be my only major. I don't want that to be the case. I really want to keep growing and going after more. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's really it. I don't want to keep this running for too long. All that I can say is thanks for all the support. For those of you who did tune into these events and have supported me in my desk work this year. Be on the lookout for some more content on the channel coming soon, particularly around the major. I know I'll be doing some pick'em videos for all the different stages for pick'ems. I'll also probably do what I did last major, where I did like playoff preview videos for each of the quarterfinals and semifinals and grand finals. And I'll look to do that again, probably, and just crank out the content and, again, try to hit that 5K subscriber goal and keep going from there. But that is going to do it. Again, if you like the content here and you haven't already, please do sub and like and comment. And yeah, like I said, I'll be having some content rolling out soon.